Whether you're teaching English in Russia or in Peru, there is one common denominator of success. It doesn't have to do with how much you know, although investing your time in studying proper terminology and the meta language to present your students with the best possible model of English is equally important. Having said that, the main thing that determines our success in class as teachers of English is how stressed or how happy we are. If we're feeling stressed all the time, there's this little that we can achieve in our classroom. So it's very important to take care of your mental well-being. And this is something we're going to talk about today. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 very important psychological tips for mentally stable teaching. We all have our ups and downs. It doesn't matter what's happened to you in the past. The moment you've had an experience, you're no longer having it. You can only have a certain type of experience once. I know so many people who have had terrible students, as they have described them, and very often after they've had, let's say, a challenging business student who tossed every single nerve out of their nervous system, they carry on walking through their teaching path without actually being driven by happiness. Instead, they're being driven by fear that they might bump into a similar student and that they might have a similar experience, and their confidence is ultimately undermined by that unpleasant experience they've had with that particular student at that particular time in their lives. When we allow ourselves to be driven by our past experiences, we're missing the new, the unknown, interesting life that is ahead of us. When you're in the classroom, make sure you're only focusing on how you can be your best in that particular given moment of time. Let your past go. It no longer exists. It doesn't even physically exist if we trust the modern discoveries in the fields of quantum physics and quantum mechanics. The only moment that is real is right now. So feel free to let go of all of the past unpleasant memories you've had of your life as a teacher and even as a human being. It doesn't really serve you well to carry on by just constantly carrying that load of negative memories into your class. Your students won't benefit from that. You won't benefit from that. You'll be fearful and unwilling to experiment, to play around with your teaching methodology, to bring new experience into your class, to help your students learn better. Just let go of that past. It doesn't really matter what you did 1 year ago. It only matters what you choose to do right now at this very moment in time. It's really important to establish healthy boundaries in your class. If you have disruptive students, that's right, we can't do much about that. But one thing you need to bear in mind is that your students' behaviour or your students' motivation or the words they say to you, those words have nothing to do with you as a person. You need to cut it clear in your mind that whatever happens in your classroom should always have to do with the classroom. It doesn't have to do with you as a person, or it doesn't have to do with that student as a person, although you may find it helpful to learn a bit of basic psychology. It's not that important that you turn into a professional psychotherapist to work in your class. You never know how your students are being treated at home. And also, you have no idea, you haven't got the faintest what kind of morning each particular student might have had. You can't control that. You can't control everything in the world. So don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions as to why your students are saying a certain thing. Those things that your students comment on, when those have to do with anything else but the world of English teaching. If their words have to do with your personality, if those words have to do with your family, if they have to do with your competence as a teacher, people don't say that because of you. They're just saying that because of themselves. The same thing goes for all the comments on YouTube. Have you ever spotted the people who comment on YouTube, and those comments often end up sounding like, just clashing debates or things like that? Those things, what they do is they reflect the mood of that particular person at the given time. They don't have anything to do with you, the presenter, or equally with you as a teacher in a classroom environment. There is a great book I can't recommend enough. It's called The Four Agreements, a Toltec Wisdom Book. If you have a chance, get your hands on it because it's brilliant. This thing of not making assumptions as to what other people think or why they may be acting in a certain way towards you, towards each other in your class, is very well pronounced in this particular rule that I'm just willing to read out loud to you right now. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others do and say is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you're immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. One thing we don't like is when our teacher is being unfair to us, where they don't check our tests, but then they expect us to do our homework. And we have those double standards running in the classroom. It doesn't feel very pleasant. So make sure you're always fair with your students. Part of the teacher's job is giving feedback. And when giving feedback, it's very important to strike this balance of being fair, but also not being overly positive or equally overly negative about our feedback. It's really important that we provide our students with honest feedback. Where the only thing we're commenting on has to do with their language, right? With their skillfulness of being able to express themselves in the English language. But if they want to, they can obviously consult us in terms of their own mental health or their own things happening in their lives. But also make sure that you don't expect your students to respect you if you don't respect them in return. This respect running in the classroom should be a reciprocal feeling. You just can't expect one without the other. It's not a one-way street. It should be a two-way street, really. The third tip I'm going to mention has to do with non-verbal communication. I think our students are a little bit like our children. We always know how they feel, and they always know how we feel. It's really important to bear that in mind. Our students are always aware of how we're actually feeling at each particular moment. If we're feeling demotivated, we can basically overplay, because then we might be trying to act in an enthusiastic fashion. But if we'll be hating our job at that moment, our students will feel that. And you have to be honest about it. There is nothing wrong about sharing your feelings with other people. Make sure you don't overshare, though. It's all about striking the right balance again. But I think that if we present our students with our authentic personality, if we're not afraid to be real with our students, to be really authentic, we will create that very strong bond with our students. So make sure you do that. I know it's a really counterintuitive thing to do. Sometimes we think that if we bottle up our feelings and we won't allow our students to read the real version of ourselves, if we wear that mask to the classroom every time we're teaching a lesson, we might think, oh, our students will never get that. They will think I'm a brilliant teacher. However, our students will always scan the reality of how we feel at that particular time. I'm not recommending to just, to come to the class and wear a heart on your sleeve and, start complaining about things by just taking the time of the lessons where a student might be just doing something productive in terms of their English. However, it's really important that you're real with your students. You don't overplay your enthusiasm, but you don't downplay your behaviour either. The most important thing having to do with this tip happens in the non-teaching environment, just at home. You need to take some time to relax. In order to be authentic, in order to do your best in your class, you need to make sure that you have enough time to relax, to put your feet up, to have your me time. There is a great British GP who turned into a household name on British television, whose name is Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. And Dr. Rangan Chatterjee is a great guy who advises people on how they can create a healthy lifestyle just by relaxing enough, sleeping enough, eating good food and moving enough. And what I really like about his approach is that it's perfectly down to earth. You may go and check out on Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's show, Doctor in the House, which is available on YouTube, or you may just watch Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's lecture that he did for Action for Happiness not so long ago, I suppose. It's really great. The one thing I'm going to emphasize for you here is the me time. Make sure you have enough time to just do something on your own. Being on your own is really important to recharge our batteries. I think there is this stigma running in our society nowadays that, you know, being with people is okay, and unless you're in a social group, instantly you will start feeling lonely. However, there is a great deal of contrast between feeling lonely and feeling solitude. You see, loneliness and solitude, those are two things that you can't really equal. Those are different things. Being on your own is important. If you stay on your own for 30 minutes per day, it doesn't mean that you're getting thrown away from your social circle. It doesn't mean like that. It doesn't mean that. It only means that you have some time to recharge your batteries, to take your mind off things, and ultimately feel that you're doing your teaching for a purpose. Sticking with your why power, reconnecting with your why power is also crucial. Ask yourself from time to time, why have I chosen to be a teacher? What is that thing that's drawn me to teaching? Why do I want to teach? What is the emotional benefit that I get from my teaching? If you choose to follow all of those recommendations, you won't feel demotivated. However, make sure you don't say to yourself, okay, so right now I'm psychologically literate. So if I experience any downs, that's going to be wrong because I'm doing those things very well, you know, following every single thing of what Lilia told me. Don't fall into that trap. It's okay to feel low at times. There is nothing wrong about that. One mistake that people make when they're just feeling a little bit under the weather, when they're feeling gutted, if they try to prevent themselves from feeling gutted, they try to make themselves, to force themselves to feel happy. They're putting on this fake grin, you know, this fake smile, and they're trying to convince everyone they're happy. Don't do that. Make sure you don't do that. Let yourself feel low. And again, that's another counterintuitive thing to do. If you let yourself feel low at times, you will be able to survive through the darker times a little bit faster. And on this note, I'm going to let you go to think these things through and come back to me to comment or tell me if any of those things have helped you make your teaching life a little bit easier. Please give this video a massive like if you want to be educated more on your psychology and how you can use it in class. Here is the book again, in case you're wondering. The 4 Agreements, a Toltec wisdom book. It's a great one. It's got 4 main scripts that we need to encode in our minds in order to be psychologically stable and healthy people. I'm planning of creating another video where I'll talk you through those 4 agreements in the teaching context, if you'd like. So please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and I'll see you soon.